Alright, I got 2 episodes to review of the newest season of Deadliest Warrior. I'm sorry I've been kind of late, but I'm gonna make up. But now I'm gonna try to catch up. So the first episode was George Washington versus Napoleon Bonaparte, and this has been a matchup that's it's always been debated in forums, blah blah blah. So this match. If you didn't watch it, if you haven't watched these episodes, don't watch this video. I'm gonna spoil a lot. So George Washington wins this match, all right? Because we're in America, and this matchup was very close. Like, according to Wikipedia, since they're doing this new system where it's now 5,000 battles instead of 1,000, if this was still 1,000, it would be off by 6 kills. So this was very close, and still in favor of George Washington. And this whole episode, this new season, it's very, very different. I mean, like, we don't have any more Max Geiger, and believe it or not, no one really cares. I don't really care. In fact, Max Geiger was my least favorite guy on the show, mainly because Max Geiger, when he was still around, he had nothing to do except press a button. Like, Dr. Doran, he examines the wounds, and even though he says the completely obvious, he does give in some, time to time, information that you might not know. Jeff Desmoulins, he's the guy who, he shouts like, oh my gosh, something exploded. But he sets up the explosives and sets up, like, the stuff they do on the show. So he's not totally useless. Max was totally useless. Like, he said nothing that you would learn from. Like, he was not an expert. He was a person who presses a button. So thankfully, I actually like, well, I don't really know how to say his last name. Like, I actually like Mac on the show. The guy from that weapon show on some other channel, on like Discovery Channel thing. Mac is actually pretty good. I mean, like, I don't really like that it seems like they're trying to make him the front man of the group, like, since they're only doing that because he's famous for something else. But it's kind of weird seeing, like, when they're doing the new intro, like, there's a new intro for this season. He's like the first expert introduced. So when I first watched the intro, it felt like he was the front person of the show. But besides my little resentment for that, he's actually good. Like, I like the fact that he's the one who examines tactics now, because, like, beforehand they kind of just ignored tactics. Like, they mentioned it from time to time in season 1 to 2, but here they're actually taking it into account. Like, it's now an edge. Like, it's now a test. And they have, like, this new segment where he takes he and one of the historian on the team, on the rival teams, he takes one of them, and they have, like, this touchpad on the table, and they, like, analyzed the Warriors' greatest triumph. Like, in George Washington's case, they examined his victory at Yorktown, the one that ended the Revolutionary War, and for Napoleon they examined the Battle of Austerlitz. And these segments, there's also other segments that, I mean, okay, I'll get to that segment later, but this segment actually feels good for once, because it makes the show feel more like Deadliest Warrior, and it's staying away from the, I kind of made a joke about the show being Deadliest Weapons. Like, these segments actually make the show feel like they're trying to figure out who would actually win in a fight, because now Dr. Doran's, like, analyzing how tall they were, or how muscular they were, or how healthy they were. Like, who would actually win in a fight, not just based on their weapons. And there's also another guy they added. Like, he's the new guy who presses the button, but unlike Max, he actually puts in some other stuff. Like, he puts in X factors. Like, he puts in, like, who had the best intuition, who had the best battle experience, who was the smartest, who was the healthiest. And it's all good additions. And also, what I was very impressed with was the fact that they made the show feel more documentary-ish. Like now there's more segments on like more recon what's the word? Reenacted scenes of like important stages in the Warriors' life. Like um it showed like Napoleon learning how to how to fire a cannon. It showed George Washington as a British commander. Like it didn't just show scenes of them fighting. Now it actually showed more scenes that were important to the person. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyways, overall, the show is improved. Like based on this episode alone, like I know I talked mainly about the season, but but on the episode alone, I think this episode is better than any of the episodes I actually saw in season 1, season 2, and that is a kind of big statement. But in terms of what I saw in this show, it is a lot better. Like I was surprised because I'm a big critic of the show, and it seems like with this new season they're answering some of the criticisms that a lot of people are giving. I mean, like they tried to do that in the aftermath, but it didn't really work out, I guess, because this new season feels like they actually listened to the criticisms and made a lot of changes to the show. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. But there are still problems with the show. Like there's still more emphasis on the weapons than tactics and stuff like that. But and also the tests are better. Like they aren't as they don't leave out as much variables as in the last 2 seasons. But the tests still are kind of weird. Like they tested the muskets for both Napoleon and George Washington for accuracy, when like everyone who has knowledge of muskets or like those rifles around that era, those rifles, like they would actually just gather a bunch of guys and they all fire at the same time. And if with all those guns firing at the same time, you're bound to hit one person at least. I mean, that was the tactic. Like they were not accurate at all, and in the tests, they weren't accurate. Like they'd miss a lot of times, and the winner of the test was actually the one who was more accurate. But it's a little frustrating. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. So this first episode of Deadliest Warrior, it's improved. It's improved from the last 2 seasons, and I know a lot of people are a little critical of what the matches they have on this season, but overall, I think they're heading in a right direction. Maybe not in terms of matchups, but in terms of how the show's presenting itself. Oh, and one more thing. The simulation they had at the end. This simulation was okay, I guess. I mean, some notable parts, like George Washington talked more times than I actually noticed one of like a warrior would in the simulation. Like usually the warrior would just like grunt and growl, but here he's actually giving orders and stuff. And also the end sword fight was a little poorly shot. I mean, it was kind of just like up in their faces. Well, not in their face, but it was like close up, so you couldn't really tell what was going on. Like, it wasn't a very good simulation, but it was okay, I guess, for the show, for the ending. So I'm gonna move on to Joan of Arc and William the Conqueror. So I'm gonna end this video here right now.